This is Randy of Randy with Brain Break with Randy. Boy, it's been a long day. I wanted to tell a story from my days of traveling. It got brought up when I was watching a TV show today, and I just wanted to share it. I used to travel in the Southeast and would go throughout Texas, uh, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, as well as Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and places like New Orleans and as they say, Nolans. And I tried not to go in the summer, so I would try and go during the 8 months of the year when it was cooler. I had to go for a week about every 6 weeks or so to do that, except in the summer. And one time I was in Nolans, New Orleans, at the end of a very warm day. And the hotel I was staying at didn't have a restaurant, and the restaurant across the street had already closed. But I was told there was a Rite Aid down the street by the hospital, and I could walk to it. And so I decided instead of taking the car out, I would just walk down, get some exercise, and get something cold. Uh, Maybe help me relax a little bit. So I walked into this Rite Aid, and I'm wearing a T-shirt and some shorts and a pair of light shoes, whatever they might have been, tennis shoes. All I know is I didn't want any more clothing on me than necessary because it was hot and it was humid. Um, so as I'm in that Rite Aid, just kind of looking around and seeing things, uh, I find out where the ice cream is and where the ice cream freezer is and where the cold drinks are. And I'm kind of looking around. And this gentleman comes up and he's dressed strange because one, he's kind of scruffy. We're right across the street from a major hospital. And I'd noticed him and his partners all came in wearing long coats. And I thought, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Where did they come from? Minnesota? And this guy walks up to me and he says, "You need to make your selection and exit the store, sir." Well, it's not near closing time. I don't know what his problem is. And so I'm still looking and trying to decide what I want to eat in the way of ice cream. And he comes up again. And this time he bumps me. And I turn around to look at him. And he pulls his shoulder or his jacket out of the way so I can see hanging from a harness a shotgun. Now it's probably sawed off, but it was a shotgun nonetheless. And I said, "Yes, sir." I reached in, grabbed my purchase, and went right up to pay for it. And as I'm paying for it, I leaned over and as I gave the money, I said, "You know you're going to be robbed." And she says, "Yes, I do. Just leave." Okay. So I went across the street, and right in front of the hospital at that time was a payphone. And I put in my coins, let my ice cream melt a little, and I told them what was going on. They said, "Oh, sir, you're not the first one to call. We've already had calls about this Rite Aid. We're on the way." I sat down to watch the fun. And I'm sitting on the curb in front of the hospital eating my ice cream bar. And these guys come out carrying loads of small appliances like they will sell uh, in a small retail establishment: toasters, waffle irons, blenders, even a TV or two. And they just threw them in the trunk. And then they came out with bags of what I suspected were drugs from the pharmacy. And then they also took the cash. And this took quite a while. They were not in any hurry. They were dressed to get, they would have gotten really warm on a very warm night if they had have hustled at all. So they weren't hustling. And you know, the weird thing was, is they didn't need to because they drove off. And about 2 minutes later, after they were gone from sight, the police showed up. And a few minutes after that, another police car showed up. And I was just amazed because my ice cream was long gone, so it had been several minutes. And yes, I heard the sirens, but they were so far off, didn't seem to matter. And if you know New Orleans, it's an interesting place. Make a long story short, I gave my report of what I saw, and the police had no reason. They didn't talk to me about why they were late. Wouldn't answer any of my questions that way, and I I was just astounded that it had taken this way. Well, so the next day, I am telling my customers about my experience and that these guys didn't get caught. They should have been caught in the act. They probably would have been in Los Angeles or Dallas or Houston or certainly Mesa, where I live, or Phoenix. And so as I'm telling people, I heard all kinds of stories that were really scary about New Orleans. And I'd always done my best to take care of myself and be safe when I was in New Orleans. But the story that stands out to this day is of a Chinese restaurant that was robbed. And the family had two little girls there helping them. They had already done their homework and they were getting ready to go home and go to bed. But they were in their pajamas in the store. And I believe it was their uncle ushered them into a freezer case that was right behind the hostess where you would pay when you left. And they were hidden in there, even though there were glass windows, because of the humidity. And the robbers that came in to rob this place ended up killing all the adults in the back as well as in the front. And so I believe they killed 5 people. And these little girls stayed in that freezer, even when they heard other people come in after the murders. And they were terrified when they were found. They were terrified. And one police officer kept saying, "Oh, I know these girls. Let me take them." And she was a female police officer. "Let me take them." And the girls were terrified. And so the officer that was there and had found them was a father and probably a grandfather. And he said, "No," he said, "they're fine here with me." And he just cuddled with them, warmed them up, got blankets for them, but kept that other officer away from them, not knowing why, just a gut feeling. When they finally got the girls to the police station, again, this officer offered to watch them. And she was told, "No, we don't need you. Go back and do your job." And it turned out that this officer had the beat, if you will, where this restaurant was. And the girls were so terrified of her because she was part of the robbery and they recognized her. And the sad story is that another relative told the police that they had helped her when she was first starting out as a police officer by feeding her and her little boy so that she would not have to buy dinner and would give her lunch for free and also dinner for her and her son. And that story has stuck with me forever, that this gal wanted to take those girls and probably do them harm. And at the same time, this family had been kind to her, and she repaid that by bringing these other no good nicks in to rob the place. It's just a scary story. And there are bad people out there. I'm glad I live in a place where I can trust the police officers mostly, but things have certainly changed since I was a boy. don't know how to describe that, and I probably will leave well enough alone by not saying more at this time. But I wish you a good night. I hope that you can be safe, and that if you do have any interactions with the police, that they're good ones and safe ones. And I thank you so much for watching Brain Break with Randy. And again, thank you. Have a great night.